Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. And we're going to pick up with hopefully the same pace we had when we left for lunch with session 3. And the topic, using data to drive change in practice, standards, and policy. And the speakers are Mark Ray. Mark Ray, okay. Melissa Walker. There she is. Okay, hi Melissa. We substitute. This is an old sheet. So who was the substitute person? Lauren. Lauren. Okay. And Lauren's going to go on first, right? Prepared? Okay, here we go. Shows you how flexible we are. Whitney? Where's Whitney? Oh, there's Whitney. Hi, Whitney. Sorry, goes around. And Joyce Lee. Where's Joyce? You're all front. That's very convenient. Okay. I'm going to add a little load to their presentations, and that is, it's a conversation that I had with Charlene yesterday. Oh, sorry. Sorry. And I talk softly when I'm away. And the load is that we want the speakers to think back to the time when they were doing things in their own old-fashioned way. And now think about their presentation today and to give us some sense of why they made the changes to how they're performing today. And I'll add one to that. How do they feel that it's turned out, and how do they project a little bit to the future? So that's a little bit of extra load. It's kind of an overview while they're presenting to see how that does develop. Okay. Mark is the director. Oh my goodness. It's toe tied down. Is the director of the Lighting Research Center and professor of architecture and cognitive sciences at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. He is well known for his research in Cascadian photobiology, psychological responses to light, lighting engineering, and visual performance. He's the author of more than 250 scientific articles related to human factors in lighting, and was editor-in-chief of the 8th and 9th editions of the Illuminating Engineering Society Lighting Handbook. Melissa, well, let's jump down to Lauren. Since are you going to be first? Oh, okay, all right. Well, I better pop you in here. Works at Google's E team. What is that? Environment. E for environment. Okay, good. That's for people who don't know. Where she focuses on the sustainable operation of Google facilities. She works with Google's facility managers to identify sustainability practices that address the particular environmental issues in their offices and cities, such as indoor air quality in Asia. Before joining Google, Lauren was the manager of lead performance programs at the U.S. Green Buildings Council. Okay. And we'll jump back to Melissa, who I know. She works at the General Services Administration as their Wellness Amity Program Manager. In this role, Melissa manages and oversees the development, promotion, and implementation of facility-based health and wellness programs for GSA, such as FitWell, the concessions program, fitness facilities, and health units. Melissa is a registered dietitian, personal trainer, facilities professional, and a proud U.S. Army veteran. Okay. Okay, so have we left it? Okay, Joyce, FAIA, lead fellow, is present. Okay. Right, thank you, Mama. This is tough for me. I'm just used to being out in a way, right? Okay, is the president of Indigo, JLD, providing green health, design, and planning services on leading-edge green projects. She has been an architect fellow at the National Leadership Academy for Public Health and one of the first LEED accredited professionals in New York. She served as chief architect under New York City mayors Giuliani and Bloomberg. No relation. Okay, and last but not least is Dr. Whitney Austin Gray at Delos. Is that right? Is responsible for the oversight of health research and the development of innovative design strategies and products that seek to improve human health and wellness through building design. Prior to joining Delos, Dr. Gray served as the Health Research and Innovation Director for Canon Design, a global, and there better be another word back here. There isn't. Fill in the word after global. Global design firm, that fits. That's wonderful. It's just not here. Okay, we'll get started. Why don't you get for exactly universe? Okay. Lauren, you're up. Thank you.
So we switched the order up from what you see in your agenda. I don't know why. So we're speaking about applications and practice, and particular to Google, how we use the data that most of you generate to inform our design and operations decisions. And so at Google, we actually live the mission that Dr. Judy Hairwagon stated this morning. So if you look up my name in our intranet, you will see that I work for happy, healthy, and productive Googlers. That is the mission of the E-team and the larger department that we're in, Real Estate and Workplace Services. So all of the work that we do puts the user first. And so our belief is that if you put the user first, all else will follow. I think that's a little simplistic for how it actually works out. However, we are making sure that the folks who work in Google offices are in the healthiest offices that we can possibly provide. And if we cannot provide it, like if we're not satisfied with what we're delivering, we go out and look for what research is out there, what practices, what experiments are going on so that we can learn from them or host them and possibly learn more for ourselves. And so in the talk today, we'll be focusing on indoor environmental quality. And for Google, although it's very important, it's still a place where we have a lot to learn. So we'll be posing some questions towards the end of this. We'll really be looking for your help. And when Charlene asked us to speak on our work today, she said, put questions out to the audience. This is going to be a dialogue. And so we hope that you can help us make progress towards our goals of providing happy, healthy, and productive space for our Googlers. And so one of the rules of today is what if? Ask what if. So what if buildings added an extra 30 years on to your life, onto the life of every person that inhabited it? What would that building look like? We believe the first place to start really is with environmental quality. And we know that with managing energy performance, for example, you can design for efficient systems, you can right-size the system, you can make sure you have the appropriate operating schedules, and go. But you can't really do that with some of the elements of indoor environmental quality. And so what we're doing now is using a model of looking at their research that's out in the field establishing hypotheses of our own or those of others, testing them in pilot scenarios, and looking for models that scale. And when we implement them, we're always looking for a design and construction solution that we can implement, but also something that could be replicated in an operational model if, for example, we weren't doing a renovation project or we weren't moving into a new space. And that's where we see a lot of challenges. We're finding solutions within the indoor environment that can be applied from both a design and build standpoint, but also from a facility manager standpoint, which is often much more difficult. Already lots of established constraints. And so as we go through, and I think all of our slides are going to be messed up, I'm sorry. But as we go through and apply these methods that we're either testing or we've proven out, we're collecting data in the operation of our space. I'll go through a little bit more about what specific data we're collecting. And we're analyzing those through, either by working with someone like Charlene or by working with our own analytics teams and seeing what yields from those projects and whether or not, if the hypothesis had proved out, does it still over the long term? And at Google, long term means maybe we've moved 3 times, we have 1,000 more people in the space, and it's really hard to compare what we had thought at the start to what actually exists, 6 months, 1 year out. So long term for us is 1 year. Might not be that way for everybody. So we approach our projects using IEQ as a lens. And our projects would be, like I said, a design, a fit out of a new space, the build of an entire building, or even just a small project that facilities teams are going to be doing to improve spaces that they manage. And so this isn't new to you all, but we're really looking at it holistically, or as holistic as we can. Environmental quality includes, the visual comfort of the space, the thermal comfort, biophilia, access to nature, for example, and electric and daylighting kind of going into the visual comfort piece. So to measure these, Google has established what we believe are a list of measurable things that we can measure outdoor air, we can measure indoor air. We can measure for pollutants, specific ones. We can look for odors. We can observe. We can measure lighting levels. We can measure temperature, humidity. A lot of what's in the nodes and a lot of what's in the wearables that are coming out, those things can be measured. That's true. But some things are easier and some things are harder to measure than others. And so today at Google, we're measuring specifically for the elements that are sort of in the light gray. So we are looking at and consistently measuring when we deliver a new building, the elements in light gray. We are struggling with some of the things that are in black. View quality is a really great example. It could be very subjective, or it could not be, like if you have the brick wall view we've seen twice today in slides. Maybe you know that that's poor view quality. But you're not always going to be able to have it that black and white. And so our first question to you is, how do you measure and how do you scale the measurement of these things that are in black? And how do you know then when you're measuring that you're measuring the right thing? And then how do you interpret that data? Because odors are also very subjective. For me, I love the smell of fresh cut grass. Maybe that's not considered an odor, but it's a smell, and my partner hates it. And right now, I'm dealing with facility managers across Asia Pacific who want to use scent marketing and pump smells into their lobbies. They claim that Googlers requested it. It was probably just one person that suggested it. And now they want to implement a scent in the lobby. So first thing we did was reach out to the manufacturer of the scent, got a list of ingredients, and Charlene advised. Some scents are okay, but even if you get a scent that isn't putting in a high amount of additional volatiles, for example, you still are going to get someone who finds that scent to be the worst thing in the world and destroys their experience in the space. And so we're really trying to strike a balance here with what some Googlers desire over others, and then how to scientifically measure and prove out whether the decision to withhold scents was the right decision. So that's just one challenge. And so the future would be that we've figured all of that out, and that we at Google are measuring at the start of first day of business for space, continuously throughout the lifespan of that office space, all of these elements, and that we're able to provide meaningful data feedback to the folks who are operating the space, but also to the folks who need to learn from what we've done to design and improve on all of our other spaces, because we're building out new spaces every week that can use this data. And we need to get to a place where we're really nimble at delivering findings, especially once we're able to measure for all of those things. So today, specifically what we're doing with air quality, a lot of you know of Google's Healthy Materials program, now called Portico. So Priya, raise your hand, Priya, yay. So Priya is really intimately involved with our Portico program, which looks at the ingredients to the materials that we put into our space, whether that's going to be infrastructure material or office, desks, and other more physical, durable materials. We hope in the future to be able to bring that from a design tool to a facilities tool so that our facility managers can leverage it and find the usefulness of understanding the ingredients in the products they're purchasing useful, because they hear from us at Google that sourcing materials is very important to the health of the environment, yet we're not able to give them the data and the actionable information that they need in order to make that a reality. So we're partway there with that one, and we're moving quickly towards finding a holistic solution for that. Another good example would be our indoor air quality testing protocol. So we are working across the globe to deliver regular indoor air quality testing starting annually, because I think if you were at my presentation at Greenbuild, I mentioned how difficult it is to find a qualified vendor in all of the Asian Pacific countries that we work in, and it's taken a year. So if it takes a year to find a qualified person, we haven't used them yet, then we want to make sure that we're at least testing annually before we scale up to quarterly or seasonally, which is particularly important right now in China and India in the winter months, when particulate matter, as you've seen in the news lately, is very, very high. So with our indoor air quality testing, we are not only looking to identify the healthiness of our air, but also to educate our facilities teams and our design teams as to what healthy indoor air means for Google. And so we need to deliver a suite of guidance material for them so that they understand what it is they're receiving when we give them the data back, and so that they can manage for keeping levels low or manage to bring levels down if they're too high. And one thing that we're finding in our air quality testing sort of relates to another piece on this list, which is particle and gas phase filtration. Maybe in places like Mountain View, California, where our headquarters are, we don't really need as much filtration as we have, which is costing us money and perhaps keeping the energy bill up a little higher. So all of these things are sort of integrated, not just within air quality, but also with a lot of other elements of green design and operations. So for thermal comfort, we are actively managing and building using either elements or theories of what is a great thermal and airflow variability, and trying to figure out best ways to measure for that to make sure that as the building was designed, it is being delivered and maintained. I would say that air temperature and humidity are something that we all do actively. That's not unique to Google at all, but it is something that we still believe is a part of the whole in delivering a really great indoor environment. For lighting and daylighting, it's very similar to a lot of elements that have been found in LEED and other rating systems. We did take a lot of the cues from the experts who started out in the whole movement. What we are doing is sort of playing with dynamic and variable light and lighting for circadian impact in a way that we believe others aren't. So we're piloting in a couple of our locations some circadian light pilots using the flux lighting technology. we're also really, really interested in trying things more at the individual users level, as we heard a little bit earlier from Mariana. It's something that's important to Google, particularly in our push for providing enhanced personal and desk space. So we're working right now to figure out how to provide the appropriate acoustic environment, the right levels of privacy. And when you do that, you're also putting up new barriers and limitations to the type of quality of light you can deliver to them. So it's something that we're very interested in maintaining a really, what do I want to say, just a really productive and stimulating environment based on the light that's provided to Googlers, in addition to acoustics. So if we go back to the example of desk space and personal space, and how that is a really big deal at Google right now, and making sure that we are delivering the best immediate environment for the Googlers, we also are running into challenges with acoustics. So we are experimenting with soundscapes and with the desk space acoustic privacy. So how do we create a space like a library that's meant to stimulate concentration and get people into flow, which is something we are striving really hard to be able to provide Googlers, are the appropriate environments for them to get into flow, the most productive and probably the most energizing state you can be in when you're doing your work. And so through experimentation with different acoustic strategies, we're able to see if you need a cafe or a coffee shop type environment, how do we deliver the right acoustics for that space? So that's going to be a little bit more energizing, a little bit different sounds that sort of remind you of being out and about and collaborative. Whereas when we're looking at the individual desk space, where they're looking for more privacy, how do we keep it quiet, but not too quiet so that any noise is distracting? So these are the types of things that we're still trialing at Google, and would really love to hear from folks of any experiences that you've all had in your work, or ideas of things you would like to try. It's definitely a challenge for us still. And speaking of that, we still have lots of challenges. So like I said before, how do we know we're measuring the correct things? So we had a slew of metrics we believe can be measured, and we believe we are measuring, but we're not sure actually if every single one of those elements is what we should be measuring, or if the data that's being yielded is something that we should continue to trust. Because as we all advance with science and with practical application, we're also changing what those outputs are. And so we need to sort of adjust what we're measuring and how we're measuring to go along with how we're changing the use of our space, how we're changing the delivery of each of these spaces. In addition, how do we scale a lot of the strategies that provide those elements we're measuring? So it could be very expensive for us to have individual desks. So imagine this desk is about this big. I've got these like weird sort of like walnut-shaped walls, and it's custom built for Google. Can I scale that really? We're not sure. We're piloting that. And if we got all the elements in there that we're looking for, acoustic privacy, lighting for circadian rhythm, healthy materials, I'm not sure even Google's going to want to pay for that. So we really need to all work together to figure out how to deliver these strategies in a way that's scalable for everybody. I mean, that's a huge question we have on every single element. And then, are we getting the best available information for all of the decisions we've made? So we've worked with a panel of experts, Charlene included, on our indoor air quality protocol. And that was really relevant when we started our work in 2011. And we continue to engage so that we know we're always getting the best information, most up-to-date information. We've actually changed our protocol several times in the last 12 months. But we need to have those types of engagements with the people who are doing the research and are engaged in the community more than we are, to make sure that we're always getting the best information to refine what it is we're delivering and the decisions, the baselines, performance targets that we're setting. There are lots of awesome successes and maybe not so many challenges when you think about engaging with really, really energized, happy, and productive Googlers, however. And so as we share the information. How do I get to the minimize? As we share, yeah. So as we share the information with our facilities teams and with our designs teams and make recommendations, we often see them embrace it. And so one thing that we did on our team this year was to ask all of our facility managers to select an indoor environmental quality element and to implement it in their space. And we did a lot of education around biophilia, air quality, thermal comfort. And our Tokyo office chose to run with, thank you, biophilic design. And so what was really impressive about this project is that this was the first time we were ever taking a set of guidance that was specifically written for design teams and adapted it to a facilities and operations process. So we scaled things down, we simplified some of the concepts, but we really did a lot of education and a lot of investigations as we did this intervention for biophilia for operations. And if we can scale this type of work, I think we're going to see a transformation in how Googlers respond to a lot of the bright, awesome, fun, googly spaces you've all seen in the past.
GWDS でも Googler が自然へのアクセスが少ないと言ってました。なのでこのスペースを作りました。バイオフィリアには集中力が上がる、プロダクティビティが上がる、癒しの効果があるっていうことがありましたので、他のスペースに作ろうと思いました。
ここが赤くてシンプルでつまらないという噂の市なのです。ここをプロジェクトで変えることによってお客様や Googler の集中力やプロダクティビティが上がってより良い会議となることを願っています。
What we tried to do with this project was to give as much as possible an access to the outside from the inside of a meeting room. We tried to recreate old Japanese houses so that Googlers could have a nostalgic feeling as well as an access to nature. Old Japanese houses had mud walls known to have air filtering properties, so on every wall of the room we mixed straws with mud to make similar walls. We used natural hemp for the flooring, and finally, to give this outside feeling, we built a Japanese-style window that gives a view on autumn forest.
やっぱり色が変わったのがだいぶ落ち着いた色になったじゃないですか。なので赤い壁だった時よりも本当にこう優しい色になったのが全体的に前よりも居心地が良くて、長居をしたくなるような空間になってるんじゃないかなっていうのが私がこの部屋に入って最初に感じたことは流水に騙されたと思いました。想像以上にすごい素敵な部屋です。
So they selected this Biophilia project because at Google we do an annual satisfaction survey. And in Tokyo, the Googlers felt that they did not have a strong connection to nature. That's because we're on the 30th floor of one of the biggest buildings I've ever been in and one of the most dense cities I've ever visited. But our facilities teams took that feedback very seriously and managed to transform a bright red room that gave me a headache when I was in a meeting in it to a place that the Googlers, the last two folks that were on there, their feedback was very positive. They wanted to use the room more. They felt as though they wanted to spend more time in the room in the moments that they did book it. And so you can see from the traditional survey that's sent out, receiving the information that you could improve an aspect of indoor environmental quality, using the lessons, the education, and the research, and all of the strong facts we have about biophilia's impact on the indoor environment, and then acting on that, we've then received positive feedback from the Googlers who had originally said they weren't feeling such a strong connection. So this is just a very small scale project that we hope to be able to replicate in other offices around the globe now that we've seen success in our Tokyo office. So I wanted to share that with you because while a number of us were at Greenbuild, they were building that room. It's really fun. Okay. Thank you.